Now let's get into our hot topic. Yes, so our hot topic this week is a Seattle current event update. There's been a lot going on in the city, and we just feel like we need to update our listeners on what's been going on and maybe how we're dealing with all of it.
Yeah, because there's really been a lot, and I can't believe in such a short span of what's been popping off.
I just feel like, I said this last night, and I feel like I've been saying this, there's just way too much going on.
Yes.
In general in the world right now, everywhere.
It's only July.
So go ahead, Jazz. What's the first thing that we're going to talk about?
We're going to talk about the Women's March. So the Women's March was held over this past weekend.
What was do you remember the specific name of this?
Oh. Sorry, yes. Black Femme March.
Not to be confused with the Women's March in March.
Correct. So the march had been taking place for a while, and these protesters were on I-5, which had actually been shut down every night since the protests had been starting in Seattle from I don't know what hours or whatever, but it had been a thing that had been going on. Okay, so it wasn't like it was a surprise that I-5 was being closed from certain hours each night. Okay. They were peacefully protesting, just as they have been, and I-5 had even been barricaded by the police and everything. Okay, mm-hmm. So it was organized and calm and everything. During this march, unfortunately, somebody had managed.
And this was when?
Well, this was the
past weekend.
This was the Friday before the 4th of July.
Okay,
that this happened. So July 3rd.
The 3rd, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And somebody had gone on I-5 the wrong way and had managed to bypass the barricades and barrel themselves through a crowd of protesters, hitting 2 people, critically injuring one, and actually killing the other. And it was actually really tragic. I unfortunately saw the video, and I'm sure many of you have, but it was really horrifying to see, and I can't even imagine what they were going through and what their families are going through. So my thoughts and prayers go out to the family of Summer Taylor. She was a 23-year-old activist who actually passed away. She was the one that passed away from the injuries she sustained in this accident. And Diaz Love, the family of you, I send you guys my thoughts and prayers as well, because you guys are survivors, and I really pray for a speedy recovery for you guys. But none of this was provoked. None of it was warranted. They can't seem to find a motive behind why the person did this.
Wrong place, wrong time.
And they actually tried to keep going after the fact. They weren't stopped immediately after. They made it, I guess, a few
down to the Edgar Martinez exit.
Yeah,
just a couple miles down.
Yeah, so just really tragic that they decided to make that decision to leave after making this terrible decision. So the fight continues, honestly.
And he has been arrested, and
yes.
He is being held on $1.2 million bail.
Sorry, yes.
As well.
Very important fact as well. He has been apprehended.
They also said that there's no he wasn't inebriated, so that's not a factor at play either.
Right, which is why they're saying they can't figure out the motive or what drove him to do that.
I feel like it was just a tragic accident. Yeah, I just really wish that, I don't know, I just really don't understand why he was going so fast.
That part.
And how he didn't see the protesters.
Anybody, yeah.
He wasn't stopping on brakes. It was he didn't even see him.
And he drove around.
And how could he not? Because there was a ton of them.
And not only the barricade was there as well. There were 2 cars specifically blocking the freeway. So I don't understand.
You went through great lengths to get around onto I-5 the wrong way, and then you killed and injured people. I don't even know how. Again, I feel like I've been seeing a lot of mistakes, and it's like I don't even know how you begin to even make that mistake.
Write that out. Yeah.
Like, how did you not see these people?
Well, he told the authorities, I'm reading the article again too, just to kind of refresh, and it says he'd been working late at his family business and he just wasn't of sound mind, it sounds like, or appears to be. But the thing is like, if you're down there all the time, why were you driving the wrong way? Like,
You know,
some of those are like
and-
clues. Like,
and
there,
did you-
if you've been down there, you know which way to go.
Recently.
well, and you
that's-
know that the freeway is going to be closed,
And that's
because it
even-
has been.
That's
Yeah.
even like with the guy who shot that guy in the arm in Capitol Hill
Yeah.
because he said he was trying to see if he could get to work that route. But I'm like, it had been closed down.
Yeah.
And if you worked over there, you would
You
know,
know
that.
that.
Yeah.
So I don't really understand. Like, it's been happening. If you work down there, you should know what's going on daily at that time.
A lot of questions to be still left answered. So
So many.
Yeah.
So many.
So prior to that happening on Friday, CHOP was actually shut down and cleared out.
Yep.
yeah.
the
So
mayor said no more.
So the CHOP, formerly known as the CHAZ, which CHAZ stands for the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, and CHOP stands for Capitol Hill Organized Protest. So the CHAZ was started June 8th, and it was supposed to be free of cops. It was a free place for people to just come, be themselves, protest, do poetry, sing music, come together as a community and gather. And just be one and talk to each other about what's going on and list out their demands to city officials. However, the area that CHOP was in took over the Capitol Hill precinct. What precinct is that?
Ooh.
The precinct that's in Capitol Hill.
Um,
And so basically the cops evacuated the precinct and decided that they were going to just let these people, set up shop, set up CHOP.
because they said they feared for their safety, and they feared for the,
Right. They didn't want retaliation, and they wanted to keep everything as peaceful as possible. And everything was peaceful for a while. However, there were many people who wanted to take advantage of
Yes.
a vulnerable situation.
It was the East
Yes.
precinct. The East. Precinct.
East.
The
Thank
East
you.
precinct. Thank you.
I wanted to say
Um,
west, so I'm glad that you.
Big difference.
Everything for me is always west.
So
'Cause we know
CHOP was
Wizard of the
started-
Oz, right? We know how Wizard of the Oz went out.
The CHOP was started June 8th, and on June 20th was the very first shooting. I forgot his last name already, but his first name was Lorenzo, was actually murdered outside of CHOP. He was a 19-year-old male. There's no investigation happening around that murder. They don't really know what happened, who did it.
The
Horace,
police didn't even
Horace
go out there
Lorenzo Anderson?
Lorenzo
there you
Anderson.
go.
Yeah, Anderson. Okay.
But they didn't even collect evidence out there, right?
Yeah, they just kind of let it sit, and so there's no new news surrounding that. And then the second shooting took place June 29th, and that's when police decided, and Jenny Durkin decided,
Enough
this is a
enough.
no more. We gotta wrap this up because it's no longer safe.
Yeah.
So CHOP was fully dismantled on July 1st, and they forcibly removed everyone, and anyone who kind of decided they weren't going to go peacefully was arrested.
Yeah, I think they said 23 arrests or something around that.
And I just want to say, I don't really know how I feel about the whole CHOP situation.
I agree.
I'm a bit biased. I feel like it would have been cool if it worked out, but I also get the city officials. Like, it was extremely dangerous. They were essentially sitting ducks. Sure, they had security that were armed, but it just, I don't know, like
Yeah.
in this time where it feels like people are doing stuff out of the norm, it just wasn't safe.
Yeah, I agree. It was the whole vibe around there. My job is in that area, and the whole vibe around there was a little bit different and kind of eerie and kind of, I want to say, like tiptoey. Nobody really. If you weren't gonna go and see CHOP or whatever, you avoided the area like a plague. It was kind of like that. It was weird. And we were actually in our office the day that they were taking it down or taking it out, and we could hear, the helicopters, the sirens, you hear people yelling, and it was really weird. I don't want to say it sounded like a war zone, because I know that's a completely different experience. I don't know what that's like, but it was not like nothing that I've ever heard before.
Extremely active.
Yeah, it was very different. Nothing that we're used to experiencing out here. So it was a whole different kind of
A lot.
Yeah, it was a lot to take in. And imagine trying to focus while that's going on just like a couple blocks away from you.
I wouldn't. The last thing we want to bring up before we do our weekly recap,
and very briefly bring up,
Kanye West has decided that he's running for the president running to be president in 2020. He tweeted out this weekend, "We must now realize the promise of America by trusting God, unifying our vision and building our future. I am running for president of the United States, 2020 vision. Here's what we want to say. Do not fall for it, America.
Do not.
Black America, do not fall for
Please.
it. It's a mess. They're trying to split the vote. It's going to be another 2016 election
where you got people voting for Hillary and you got people voting for Bernie, but you got way more people voting for Trump, and that's how it's going to get. That's how people get reelected. You understand that, right? People that we don't want reelected.
If the vote is split, Trump definitely has a chance at winning this again.
So please think about it. And please, if you can, mute him, block him, so that you don't have to be subjected to what this drama is that he's trying to stir up.
And that's all we're really going to say on it, because it doesn't deserve any time.
Yes.